So let's talk about overall lessons, biggest successes, biggest failures of our attempt to make this house more environmentally friendly. I'll talk about item by item, the ideas that we came across really as I was doing my research. We had a voltage optimizer installed. Now this sounds like a really cool idea. It's basically a mini transformer that turns the 240 volts that comes into your house into 220 that is required by the items in your house to operate effectively, because items in your house operate on a European standard, which is 220 volts, whereas the incoming supply is 240. Now that's an excess. You don't need that 240 volts for your items in your house. And so the voltage optimizer was a box that went in my electric cupboard that transformed the 240 amps to 220. In principle, this would save you 10% on your electricity bill, just like that. However, a lot of items already have their own inbuilt transformers like LED lights and a lot of modern motors. And so the reality was that it probably didn't have much impact. In fact, it did break after 2 years. It was a couple of £100 plus installation, but it did break. And we decided not to replace it on the basis that more further research has suggested they're not effective. So that's number one kind of failure. Number two, we put some special fluid inside our radiator pipes. The radiator fluid, this brand was called Endotherm. There are others. The idea behind these fluids is that they break the surface tension of the water, so that with all the internal surface of your radiator is very rough, unrefined and unfinished. And that surface has lots of cracks in it. The water has a high surface tension, so water glides across those surfaces rather than infiltrating them, so it doesn't have an incredible rate of heat transfer. This endotherm fluid was supposed to break the surface tension of the water and so infiltrate the cracks and have high heat transfer. Now I got a product, a litre of this stuff, which is all I needed for my house for free. It would cost about 30 quid for a household to install the stuff. Easy to install, but in the end, whilst there's a lot of evidence out there, a lot of case studies suggesting it saves 8 to 10%, the physics doesn't seem to stack up. And I can tell people more about that if they're interested. So it's doubtful whether it's actually a valid product. Number three, we hurried too much on our solar installation. We went for the biggest feed-in tariff and ended up significantly overpaying for the solar array. And the market was unstable. We had installers that went that decided to pull out of the market after 2 or 3 years, and the inverter manufacturer went bust. So when the inverters broke, they weren't warranted. We couldn't get them replaced under warranty. So that was act in haste, repent in leisure. Then I mentioned about in an earlier video about perhaps over-specifying the LEDs. We don't really need the amount of LED spots that we've got in these rooms, so that might save us a bit if we'd reduce the amount of LEDs we designed into it. So those are some of the sort of failures. The successes, certainly I would say the insulation was cheap, easy and boring, but useful. It certainly made the house a lot more comfortable. The draft proofing, again, easy, self-install, well informed by the Cheese survey. And the rad panels, the silver foil panels were great, easy to install and a noticeable difference in warmth of the radiators.